Welcome in Abeline. Today I'm really excited to introduce a new guest, Rogério Marques. Hello.
Hello, Cara. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
We met on Twitter. We bonded over friendship and
that's
philosophy.
Right.
Yes. Rogério is a biochemist, but privately, he's a student of ancient philosophy. So the song we're analyzing today is Under Pressure by Queen and David Bowie. So, Rogério, why did you pick that song?
So, one of the reasons I picked it is because it portrays our current society critically, shows with great poignancy some of the mistakes that our society is doing right now, which was made clear by me doing some vacationing out of my society into ancient societies when I studied philosophy. So I resonated with this song for many years in the past, even before I started studying ancient philosophy, and much more right now. After studying ancient philosophy, this song just holds true so many things that that I feel now that we need to talk about these things so we can move on and improve.
Yeah, it's an excellent song. I also listened to it a lot since I was a child. For my musical ears, when he was singing pressure, it almost felt painful. The high-pitched sound, as if somebody was actually pressuring him while he was singing that. So it was so impressive that I could not distinguish actual meaning behind the words. So basically, after you brought it in, it's the first time I went carefully through the lyrics, and I was able to see kind of or project my own thing onto it. I will share it later.
Okay, let's go. So, pressure pushing down on me, pressure pushing down on you, no man asked for. Under pressure that brings a building down, splits a family in two, puts people on streets. Okay, so this is such a powerful beginning for this song. It already talks about so much grief that people experience in their lives, and of course we can try to make sense of this grief, try to find where it comes from. Before, I would kind of tend to blame society just by default. So we kind of let our society crush ourselves in hopes, we crash our today in hopes that tomorrow will be more tranquil, in hopes of living up to the standards that society at large has drawn up for us. We are eager to please other people that likely won't care about us, people that we only know at the surface. We try to impress them. We try to live up to a career, a job, etc. While we ourselves, inside us, we are kind of feeling empty. So if we are kind of like an empty soda can, we can easily be crushed. So my reaction to this part of the song is, okay, society might be crushing us, but we can also kind of react to that and react with it with wisdom. We can toughen up, and the best way to do that is to find timeless wisdom, find that we have so much more power in us, so much more potential than we realize. Even though we don't ask for society to be crushing us, it is. We have to come to terms with it. It's a fact of life, how the world works. And if we can come out of this crushing experience intact, perhaps even improved, like we use this strife of life as a formative experience, if we are in the good frame of mind to face it, we can come out of it stronger, able to even help others, to help others uplift themselves. And instead of being crushed and perhaps even ending up without being fired, ending up in the streets, living as a homeless, completely dependent on others, we could come out of our, kind of midlife crisis, for example, strengthened, recognize that other people are going through things that maybe even are more terrible than us. Then we can even assume that others are facing worse things than us, and do our best to, at least bring some tranquility into their lives, so that they might come to terms with what's going on with them, and then seek to improve themselves, to toughen themselves, to build the citadel of their minds.
Wow, that was quite an analysis of the first answer. Impressive. I agree that he talks about a general overwhelming weight that is looming on all of us. He comes in on it's pushing down on me, it's pressing down on you, and nobody asks for this. So he unites himself with the listener, let's say, and he talks, look over there, pressure also brings the building down, and it has all of those consequences. So he basically finds this common ground with another person in order to bring an idea across. And then at the end, he talks about people on the streets, and he emphasizes it in the song. This means whatever societal kind of requirements that are on all of us, it can lead to people breaking down completely. No, next.
Let's go. That's the terror of knowing what this world is about. Watching some good friends screaming, let me out. Pray tomorrow gets me higher. Pressure on people, people on streets. So the concept of people on streets repeats itself. So because maybe it's something so common. For instance, we see many people on streets in cities, in major cities in the world. It's very unfortunate. Though people on the streets are just one of the symptoms, I think, of a larger problem. There are people that might even be inside their homes, but they are feeling completely broken and dismayed and powerless. I also would like to call attention to the beginning of this part, where he talks about the terror of knowing what this world is about. I have a stepson who turned 18, and so he transitioned from kind of like the childhood to adulthood. And this is a part of our lives where we get more in touch with what the world is about. We leave the comfortable cocoon of, of our parents, of school, which we think is terrible, but it's comfortable compared to the real life. We leave our home many times to seek further studies, for example, or to go to a job, to live by ourselves, to conquer our little piece of home. So this might be a terrible experience for many people that leave childhood and move to adulthood, because we expect that the world will give us what we desire. We want a nice job. We want to feel good about ourselves. We want to build a family, or even before that, we want to enjoy life, carefree, without having a care in the world. However, we quickly realize we are struggling to pay bills. We are struggling to get along with people we work with. We are struggling to keep our friends. Many people that leave their schools and go pursue their life after school lose so many people that they considered were good friends, and they thought that they might be friends for life. They lose them. I lost many friends after school, but one of my friends that I lost, it struck me much more than any other loss, because I hadn't talked to him for many years, and he did precisely what I think the part Let Me Out is talking about. He committed suicide. Maybe he was feeling so crushed by his life that he sought a way out, and I respect people that seek this way out, but I warn that we must think about so many other alternatives before thinking about doing this. But I still cherish the time I had with him when I was at school, and I like to think that I've learned a great deal from him and his life, and honor his life as well, and the lessons that it brings to me and to others.
Wow, I'm sorry to hear that. Pressure. The terror of finding out what this world is about. So as young people, we are kind of shielded from reality because the food is on the table, no matter how little it is brought by our parents. We don't have to be the ones who bring it. And then when you get into adolescence, you suddenly find out, oh, now you have to bring the food. And you can say that it gets easier, but I don't think it is. I think it's harder right now for younger generation.
Yeah, I believe so as well. And in part it's harder because I can't consider school in general to be an effective way to produce complete human beings, as it is right now. It focuses typically on the intellect, and even just that, it doesn't do remarkably well, which is very unfortunate. It's kind of hilarious at the same time, because school is trying to narrow down on such a small piece of what we are, of what our potential is, only the intellect, and still fails miserably in general at doing that. Of course, there are exceptions. There are really good schools, but they are not the norm, not by a long shot. And we have so many more dimensions to us than just the intellect. We have our emotional intelligence that we really need to work on it to be functional human beings. We have, every single one of us has potential for leadership. I believe leadership and emotional literacy are fundamental pillars of what being human is all about, even if we only lead our own selves. But if we do that correctly, we are doing so much more than what is currently being done by the general population, unfortunately. And of course, there is a narrowness in how people study, because people, for example, in the Western countries, they study Western thinking and almost entirely ignore Eastern and other geographies where sublime thoughts were produced. And this is catastrophic to me, because we already know we have already mapped the entire globe. We know what the world looks like, but we are narrowing down the potential that we are aiming for in general. And we have access to so many great thinking that we could take advantage of. And instead of that, we are spreading ourselves thin over a lot of knowledge. That knowledge is important, but we need to tackle the most essential wisdom we can find. Yeah, but let's continue.
Pray tomorrow gets me higher. Oh, I didn't finish yet with that one. So we pray tomorrow gets me higher. So there is this optimism, but then when you get out on the streets, you recognize that there are people actually suffering instead of being happy and all higher and higher and higher all the time. My favorite part about the school, my school, was breaking the rules somehow. Yeah.
Yeah, I would also like to add, this pray tomorrow gets me higher. It's kind of like we are sacrificing ourselves today, working very, very hard, so that we might enjoy like a retirement, a nice retirement, or we can enjoy wealth in our 40s, for example, when we are thinking about this in our 20s or 30s. However, we have bills to pay. A lot of our money and our resources is spent there. And if we are also, kind of indulging and we are manipulated by materialism, we will probably spend it all and not invest anything. And we will end up in our 40s more or less in the same way we are financially, but older, older and maybe more bitter. So living
wiser.
Yeah, hopefully wiser, of course, but we need to pay attention to our lives so that this practical wisdom of life, we can gain it, because it's very, very much possible to only get old without getting wiser. And that's really unfortunate that it happens. And I think it's really common, and we need to take advantage of our time so that we can get better.
I always thought getting older and getting wiser would mean you have to break so many rules, make so many mistakes, and then later on tell the others what they shouldn't do and how badly it influenced your life. Like the only reason for you, like I'm sacrificing myself, doing all these bad things, so in the future I can be a teacher and tell others what they shouldn't do.
Yeah, pontificate, basically, speak from the height of our age, so in my time I walked to school and walked 5 miles.
I actually did. I walked 3 kilometers to school barefoot through the snow, even in the south. Really? I'm kidding. No.
Yeah, but it's so typical. Old people, our grandparents, they would say, in my time I walked to school every day in the snow barefoot and such. I endured so much so that I could at least learn to read. They're kind of trying to,
you're being spoon-fed all the information right to you, and then you come out on the streets and pressure.
Yeah, and still you complain. You're being crushed by first world problems, when I was really facing real world problems. Well, of course, yes, this speaks a lot about how we are as societies. We really need to build stronger people instead of just focusing on making things easier for everyone.
True. Yeah. I actually generally just tell the truth to younger generations, instead of making yourself like, oh, I'm so much better than you for all that problems being thrown at me, and you have to be grateful. The truth is, like, they have nothing to compare it to. Yeah. Instead, there is like another way. Let me take you to a journey into the past. Boom, no hot water and no electricity. You have a cardboard. don't worry, we are playing the beginning of 20th century at the moment. Now, invent and read, do your homework with the candle. And that would be awesome. Like, you can show the child what he should appreciate rather than try to guilt him into it. Like, the knowledge that we are being told doesn't map up as quickly as actual experience.
Yeah. Experiential learning is so much more powerful than lecturing, you know. Young people especially, you know, they are so focused on what's going on with them right now. The older people teachings, most of the times it goes in 1 year and comes into the other. But I think you hit the nail with the hammer there, because if we kind of like play with them, let's simulate how life would be. Let's expose ourselves to a little bit of difficulties, you know, without being so risky. It's not just, you know, we're not going through much danger. We're just going to turn off the light and turn on light up a candle and see how it goes from there. So you can experience, you know, you can broaden your experience, which is so crucial, you know, to build stronger people.
And to build appreciation for all the good things you have.
Yeah.
Starting with removing toilet paper for people.
Yeah.
Okay. You can read next one.
Okay, let's go. So, chipping around, kick my brains round the floor. These are the days it never rains, but it pours. So to me, this says so much. You know, just 2 lines and so much density here. It's dumbfounding. It's really amazing how these guys, you know, these 5 guys or whatever, joined together, Queen and David Bowie, and wrote about this. Probably they weren't sober at the time, as stories report. But still, chipping around, kick my brains around the floor. It can mean a lot of things. Can mean that people are abusing their brain, their nervous system with drugs, and also with stress, with worrying. They're kind of like using their precious gift, which is their rationality, in search of getting more wealth, getting more stuff. And it's nerve-wracking, literally. People might come out of a career of 10 years or 20 years and be in the middle of it, and they might be kind of devastated and damaged by how they have pressured themselves. I've heard stories about people working in advertising using cocaine to generate stuff, you know, to work, you know, to function. It's very unfortunate, because every single drug people use, every single one, especially if they use them prolonged and in a long term, it will damage their neurons. It will damage their brain cells, and eventually people will lose their most precious gift that nature gave us, which is the ability to reason, to rational thoughts. We can basically, instead of damaging our brains, we could enrich them, make them function better, make our rational mind come to terms with our emotional mind and our impulses, so that we can build, foster even kind of a better coordination, a better workplace, as if we could say, in our brain, between the different systems of the brain, that they almost have nothing to do with each other, because the most ancient part of our brain is the lizard brain. Then we have the mammalian brain that's sprung up many eons after, and then our most recent, more primates, more human brain. These, you know, they could interact with themselves, with each other, in a wrong way. You know, we can have conflicts inside. But on the other hand, we could foster a good coordination, a good way for these different parts of our brains or our minds to collaborate. You know, we should build a collaborative mind instead of a competitive mind where different parts of our mind are, you know, at odds with each other. We need to build inner peace before we can even think about building peace in the world at large. So also to say about these are the days it never rains but it pours. I feel that it's the concept of a deluge, of a kind of a biblical deluvian concept of being so much submersed in knowledge, in content. You know, we are in a time that we just need to turn on a device and be kind of like drinking from a fire hose of information. And almost all of it is worthless, you know. Yeah. This is one of the ills of our time, and it's not just of our time. Even in ancient times, people would complain that most information, most knowledge is worthless. You know, we shouldn't focus on worthless information. Of course, we can get aware of it, but let it go. You know, just don't get attached to worthless information, especially misleading information, fake news and such. We need to let it go and cherish wisdom. You know, we need to kind of have a wisdom nose and sense where wisdom is and treasure it, you know, and collect it and treasure it so we might use it to improve our lives in the future. So this is what I understand about them saying that it rains, it never rains, but it pours.
I see it as an artist, more or less. Artists, they have this, I call it Rubik's Cube vision. Instead of eyes, there is those Rubik's Cubes, they see immediately in different dimensions, let's say at the same time. And sometimes the information is so vast and pressing in the head, you cannot take it anymore. So you go into self-medication and chipping around, kick my brains around the floor. This means drinking so much until you puke yourself all over. Actually, that's what I see when he says, kick my brains around the floor. That means he's like basically on his force everywhere out. These days, it never rains. You don't go outside. You don't see people on the streets. You don't go, so that that's the pressure. You go outside, you see people on the streets, you're coming back, you cannot take it anymore. You just, like, especially if he had been to New York and just seen a homeless person, he's like, I cannot take it. And it pours. Isn't that like English expression when you pour yourself some drink?
Yeah, it can be pouring, but in this context of talking about rain, in a sense, pouring is when
it's like
rains
from hose. Yeah,
it's when it rains like cats and dogs, as in English they use this expression. It rains so much that the water becomes filthy because of the you know, everything is flooded, you know, and the flooded water is filthy because it gets all the trash and all the garbage, and it's filled with filth. And so it's very low quality water you do not absolutely want to drink because you will get diphtheria or something like that. So it's better to have less rain and have a good quality drink of a good and clean glass of water. And this is such a powerful metaphor for other things like knowledge and information and wisdom in my mind.
Yeah, I really like that.
Turned away from it all like a blind man. Sat on the fence, but it don't work. Keep coming up with love, but it's so slashed and torn. Why? Love. Insanity lofts, under pressure we're breaking.
I love that one so much. What do you
Yeah,
think about that?
you besides it kind of rocks your minds. It also stirs your emotions. You know, you kind of feel the grief, the strife of society, of people turning away, you know, turning a blind eye, as it will, because reality might be disturbing. We might see people abusing drugs on the streets. We might see children starving. We see, you know, such disturbing things, people dying, innocent people dying, etc. So a lot of people, they default to the state of ignorance is bliss. But I don't think it's a good policy in the long term, because our ignorance can only let us go so far. Eventually, reality will blow up in our faces and we will be forced to confront with it again. So might as well train ourselves, at least little by little, to get in touch with reality, even if it stings a lot, and it does, so that we might draw some conclusion from it, draw some lessons from it, so that we might act in society as a functional human being that addresses real issues, not fake ones. There's this concept called bike shedding, where municipalities build bike lanes and bike sheds instead of focusing on getting jobs for homeless people. You know, they are in essence ignoring the real problems and making up less important problems and focusing on solving those, and completely ignoring the real problems. And so many city governments do this. You know, it's such a shame. They're ignoring real problems and focusing on non-important problems, and people might be tempted to do this personally in their lives as well. So there's also a thing that's called the bystander effect, where sometimes people collapse to the ground. They might be having a heart attack or something like that in a major city, and no one comes to their aid. No one calls the emergency number, and the people many times die without anyone noticing, almost, or at least people pretend to not notice. You know, the people don't want to get involved. They're kind of like not how would I say, not in a frame of mind to want to get involved, because they possibly aren't mature enough, you know, turned away from it like a blind man. It reminded me immediately of a photographer, a famous photographer. I don't remember his name, but anyway, he won an award for a photo of a child, a small child, a toddler, that was emaciated in Africa, with a vulture behind the child. I wonder if you're already visualizing this photo. It won a Pulitzer Prize.
I heard that story.
Yeah. So he waited in front of the child with the vulture behind the child for more than 20 minutes without helping the child whatsoever. He was waiting artistically for the vulture to open his wings, you know, its wings.
Shot.
Yeah, he wanted the best shot possible, most emotionally charged photo there could be, but the vulture never spread its wings. So he ended up reluctantly taking that photo that anyway gained him a prize. Even after taking the photo, he didn't help the child. And after people, I think maybe a reporter or something like that, asked him why he didn't help the toddler, he said, "I didn't want to get involved." So he wasn't emotionally supercharged enough to be a hero, as we might think about being a hero, you know. So this I think is something that might make us pause, you know, and think about what people are doing when they are turning a blind eye to something disturbing and not helping, you know, even though they are physically perfectly capable of helping, even
It's
without
a
sacrifice.
question of personal ethics, actually.
Yeah.
We can talk ourselves, we can moralize ourselves into almost any atrocity.
Yeah.
I think there is no excuse. Like, there is no photo worth it, no fame worth it. Saving kids' life, helping out a child, worth it on any moral scale.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. But we need to, you know, confront things how they are and think about them. I don't want to, you know, castigate or moralize this reporter, this photographer, but I think we need to learn lessons from this, you know, so that we may be better in the future as a humanity, not just as an individual. So let's go. So sat on the fence, but it don't work. So people just, you know, put themselves away from problems, real problems, but it won't work. You know, problems don't fix themselves. We need to engage and actively pursue doing our best to help others, to fix problems, but also not in a way that we interfere too much with nature, you know, with how the universe works. We need to nudge things into solving themselves instead of trying to solve them, you know, haphazardly, like one would poke at a fish they are trying to fry and they spoil the fish, in a sense. So we need to engage in problems with, you know, a good measure, you know, not too much and not completely disengaged from problems.
Yeah, I see here something. Torn away from it all like a blind man, sat on the fence, but it doesn't work. So there is this pressure which is outside, let's say, again, people on the street, this one sat on the fence, also outside, keep coming up with love. So I noticed that people sometimes, to escape horrible reality, they go into massive romanticism. They go into love. They protect themselves with love. But it's slashed. Reality and pressure creeps in and poisoning that love, let's say. Insanity loves under pressure we are breaking. That is actually painfully visual for me. I can imagine like both of them, either David Bowie or Freddie Mercury, or even Annie Lennox, who sang it afterwards, like sitting and doing that insane laugh where you even cannot escape into love. Yeah.
So what is love, as a famous 90s song asked?
Baby, don't hurt me. Of course.
Well, that is a good response that hints at what love really is. Love is not hurting other people, for once. That is absolutely what love is not about. But so many people use love as an escape mechanism, as a refuge, as you really said really well. And I like to think that maybe people are, when they use the word love, most people are not really talking about love, but they are talking about how to use someone else instrumentally for their own benefit, you know, not necessarily thinking about the common good. Unfortunately,
how about the mutual benefit, though?
Yeah,
like,
well,
imagine two broken souls who trying to escape reality. Let's say, like, I think that during the wartime there is a lot of love going on, and like in between two people, bodies in arms, let's say, the death is very near, and they're like, at least we have each other. And
at least we have love. Yeah, at least we have romantic love to at least in a moment escape from all this, you know, catastrophe. And atrocity
And two
that's
of
going
them
on.
benefit from that.
Yeah, well, it's I hadn't thought about that. It's a really nice way to make real love into something that is beautiful, into something that is good. Yeah, of course, it's really, really important that two people communicate well, they respect each other, there has to be respect, there has to be friendship, true friendship, that isn't conditioned by if the weather is good or not. Of course, if there is war going on, that's not a good weather at all already. So in a sense, what is true and beautiful becomes more visible when things are going very wrong with the world around people. This is it's said by many, many wise people that from hardships comes true and beautiful things. And yeah, it's really inspiring. But of course, there's also this concept of love being so slashed and torn, which is maybe some people don't use the word love to mean love and might mean something else, you know, that's not beautiful and true. It might be just an exploitation of an idealized vision of someone else that's in our minds anyway, for starters. And that might mean that we want the other person that we say we love to comply or to satisfy this ideal that we built inside ourselves. It probably won't correspond to what the real person in the world really is. So it's another mechanism in which we are being ignorant of the real world and trying to find bliss in this ignorance. But once again, as soon as we confront with the difference between our idealized version of this person we are having a relationship with, and the person does not meet these so romantic, so idealized expectations, it probably will be disturbing and probably won't spell a good future for the relationship. So people might as well learn how the person really is, confront their own, you know, made-up doll inside their minds, and realize that it's not so crucial, so essential that this idealized doll finds a perfect match in the real world. It's really impossible. And accept the other person and their flaws. And if the two people are devoted to each other, and they are kind of competing with each other to show more devotion to each other, you know, it kind of can create a good spiral, you know,
growth.
A virtuous
double helix.
Yeah, exactly. A double helix where these two people they are growing with each other, you know, each one is pulling each other, like two climbers. They attach themselves to each other, and because the first one climbed a little bit, the other one has a little bit more safety and a standard to rise up a little more. So if the relationships between two people, whether friendship or even romantic love, if they are like this, it's awesome. It's great. My parents just completed 50 years together in marriage, and you know, it's so inspiring to see people growing with each other for such a time, you know, such a long time. And there's so much to learn with this.
Yeah, it's a good actually goal to find a life partner that you can both kind of climb together that mountain of life. Can't we give ourselves one more chance? Why can't we give love that one more chance? Why can't we give love?
Yeah. The lyrics, they metamorphose, they transform themselves. So from giving love one more chance, you know, like two people that might not be going together very well, or maybe people that aren't in love with their society very well, or their community. So giving this relationship another chance, another go, you know, don't give up. And it goes from that to just give love, you know, just give love unconditionally, without abandon. Even if things are going against you, give love anyway. Even if people are mistreating you, give love anyway. Even if people are doing harm to you, give love anyway. Even if people are disrespecting you, give love. People would say that if someone is disrespecting you and you still are kind to them, even if they are disrespecting you, they cannot hold up this disrespect for, you know, indefinitely. Eventually they will break down, but it takes such a strong person, you know, to shower another in kindness that might be in pain, and because of being in pain, they are kind of letting their pain outside in the form of hate or aggression or whatnot. So this is one of the reasons why it's so important that people build themselves to be as strong as can be in terms of their mind and their emotional state, so that love has a chance, you know. Love can flow through these people.
I like that. And if I bind it to insanity loves under pressure, we are breaking. And after we are broken, we go to one safe place, which is love. And like it's like this safety hand, get me out of this mess, love.
Yeah.
And while he's, let's say, drowning, he says, can't we give love one more chance? Why can't we go? And then it becomes almost like a mantra that he repeats.
Yeah.
All the words are being shed, all the words are being shed, and he keeps only love.
And it's just feeling emotion, yeah, flowing. Yeah,
it's
I really like
life
that.
buoy.
Yeah, I really like this concept of we being kind of like a spring, you know, and out of that spring overflows continuously, not hate, but love continuously, and regardless of what the world is doing, you know, just unconditionally flowing outside, down, raining out into the world, love. Only if there were more people, you know, like this in the world, if people in this state of flowing, of outflowing love would reach a certain critical number, society would utterly transform. I believe in this. I believe that if there are more people that overflow with love, it's like ice melting into water. It kind of stands like ice while temperature is rising, like it's nothing. But after just a single degree of change, it just melts into water. And I think it's possible to melt the ice of society if the temperature of true love rises enough, you know?
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
By the way, I think there is somebody who wants your love at the moment at the background. Like, you can pet the dog, you can bring him to.
So this is he's obviously from the canine family.
Beautiful.
A kind of more distant cousin from humankind. All dogs, they almost have no love tank, you know. They need it in supply continuously.
Because they give it more, though, you know.
Yeah.
They actually extremely giving creatures.
Yeah. And also, this is something that I think is it really is inspiring for us humans as well, because we can train ourselves to be to be more autonomous in terms of feelings. We can kind of build ourselves to have a happiness tank or of some sorts. The ancients called it eudaimonia, which is the flourishing of the soul. And if we can reach this, this status of our inner self, we become less needy, we become less attached to things emotionally, and at the same time we are in a much better place to exercise love to the world. Because how would I put it? We're not so disturbed by lack of love. Even if we have no attention for a lot of time, we still have a tank filled with love or happiness that we can continue to output to the world, in a sense. Because love is such an old-fashioned word, and love dares you to care for the people on the edge of the night, and love dares you to change our way of caring about ourselves. This is our last dance. This is ourselves and the pressure. This is such beautiful poetry. We can almost become speechless because of this. It's difficult to put words more eloquently than this, because of course love is an ancient concept. People have been creating monogamous relationships since the dawn of humanity, and we kind of know it. Of course, there's other ways for people to have relationships, polygamy or polyamory or whatever, and it's also shown in the historical and archaeological evidence. But still, when people build relationships that really work, it's outstanding. It's amazing. It's almost like people become superhumans together. It's like the concept that the ancients talked about. People were before had 4 arms, 4 legs, and 2 heads, but then Zeus separated them into male and female, and then they are incomplete, and they would need to find their match to become whole again.
That's a beautiful one.
Yeah, it's really ancient, this concept. It's even ancient than these guys that we know talk about it, the ancient Greeks. Love dares you to care for the people on the edge of the night. So for me, the people on the edge of the night are people that are filled with hatred in their hearts. They have darkness, it's kind of like their soul is the night. And even so, love is the antidote to hatred. It always was and always will be, regardless of the technology that we have or not have. Still, this is the antidote to hate and aggression. So, and love dares you to change our way of caring about ourselves. So there is also this concept of self-love, of making peace with ourselves so that we may love ourselves. And I have to stress, this is not in a narcissistic way. This is connecting ourselves humbly with ourselves. So Rumi would say that love rests on no foundation. It is an endless ocean with no beginning or end. Would you become a pilgrim on the road of love? The first condition is that you make yourself humble as dust and ashes. So there's clearly not a trace of narcissism in breaking the barriers within ourselves towards true love. If we make peace with ourselves, we are in a much better position of flourishing ourselves. And if we do that, we can turn into the people that society needs us to be, and desperately needs us to be. Because there was a time for heroes in ancient times, and I believe there's still a time for heroes in our current time, and maybe more than ever before, because our world is filled with lies, aggression, war. There wasn't a single year during my lifetime when there wasn't a war in some place in the world. So clearly, this is the time for heroes like it never was, and heroes that use love as the instrument of their heroism. And so love dares you to change our way of caring about ourselves. This is our last dance. So it kind of shows a sense of urgency. It's urgent that we connect ourselves with true love. This is ourselves under pressure. So we are under pressure, and it calls for us to become better than we were before even we experienced this pressure, just so we can deal with this pressure better and we can help others deal with it better.
Yeah. I think about a person who is at the edge of the night, drowning, let's say, in depression, and escaping into love, and starts to take care about another person, and also take care of herself, himself. And that kind of love was sprung from under pressure, let's say. Like, because of pressure there was depression, because of pressure there was love and care. But that's such an artistic way. Like, I can only love if there is pressure, let's say. And think about love as this safe space. I can only take care of you and me if there is love. But I cannot be in love if there is no pressure for me to get love. Yeah. But that one is a projection.
Notice how the verses become shorter and shorter, these last four words. Yeah, and it ends with under pressure. Pressure, what does pressure make? Pressure can make turn coal into diamonds. And of course, the diamonds are compressed into such. It's something unremarkable that becomes something remarkable because of pressure.
Yeah.
You know, and of course, this wouldn't help. It wouldn't help the pressure to turn pressure on iron. The iron wouldn't transform. It would just remain iron. You know, and the ancients would say, for people that were unloving, you have a heart of iron. And so iron only rusts.
Non-transformable.
Yeah, it only rusts. It won't alchemize into something more sublime. But this is not the case for love. You know, love can transform under pressure. Love can go from something that is personal to something that involves two people, to something that involves a street and the community and the entire world. And it can be something, you know, like a golden age of humanity, just if we let it happen.
Yeah, beautiful. Rogério, would you summarize the entire song? If there anything new stood out to you after this analysis?
So what stands out to me is life is not a pleasant thing. The universe doesn't care if we live or thrive or die. So we must look at this absurdity of existence and build our own meaning. And love is a huge component to the edifice that we can build for our own personal meaning, that we can use to transform ourselves into something better than what we were. And then only after we straighten ourselves can we ever have hopes to help others and help society.
Wow, that's beautiful. Well, I just bewildered by this song. Before that, it was emotional exclamation for me, and now I see the deeper meaning and also implications for the society. It got more relevant to me as I read it, actually.
Yeah.
So excellent. Thank you for bringing it. Guys, please check out Rogério's blog post and Twitter. I will provide the links below. Give him a follow, leave him a comment, and hopefully the book will come out someday. I would be very honored to read it.
Thank you so much, Kara. It was a complete joy that I cannot put into words. This opportunity.
It's mutual. Thank you.
Yeah, this opportunity to talk with you, to talk about such an amazing song that's maybe in our both our lives before it was just superficially interesting. It was engaging and maybe profound, but now it's something that speaks volumes about our lives, our society, and how we might go forward.
Thank you for Free Time, which is our sponsor today. Bye.
Bye. Dogs are capable of going face to face with a tiger or a lion. Just to
I have seen cats do that as well.
Yeah, just to protect their human, you know. For me, the animal that best symbolizes courage and is such an important teacher in courage for our lives are really the dogs. Yeah.
The dogs.
You can say a student of ancient philosophy.
What's the difference between student and a scholar?
Because since I'm not doing my studies inside the university, it's not like I'm an academic scholar, like official, according to our society, academic scholar in philosophy, in ancient philosophy.